Have you ever had those lingering headaches, the ones that just don't seem to have a clear cause? Or maybe that feeling of fatigue just weighing you down, even when you think you got enough sleep? What if the environment we've set up in our own homes, maybe even the lights we use every day, is, well, subtly affecting how we feel? Today, we're doing a deep dive into something that's getting a lot more buzz. Electromagnetic hypersensitivity, or EHS, sometimes people call it EMF poisoning. And we're going to look at how modern tech, especially those super convenient smart LED bulbs, might actually be a surprising part of this whole picture.
Exactly. And our goal today is really to, cut through some of the confusion and give you a clear path to understanding this. It's a complex area. We'll break down what EHS actually means, look at where these electromagnetic fields are coming from in your daily life, and importantly, explore the potential health side of things, especially regarding smart LEDs. Hopefully you'll have some aha moments and get some practical tips you can actually use.
Okay, let's start right there. This term people use, EMF poisoning, it sounds pretty intense. What's the more formal understanding? What are we really talking about?
Right, that's a key point. EMF poisoning. Electromagnetic field poisoning is definitely an informal term you hear a lot. It's what people use to describe health issues they believe stem from, long-term exposure to electromagnetic radiation. The more formal term, the one used more in scientific circles, is electromagnetic hypersensitivity, EHS for short.
EHS. Okay. So what kind of radiation sources are we actually dealing with day to day? And what are the symptoms that make people think, maybe this is EHS?
Well, the sources are pretty much embedded in modern life, really. We're talking smart bulbs, definitely,
Mhm.
but also things like smart meters, your Wi-Fi router, cell phones, Bluetooth gadgets, and then the bigger stuff like 5G towers, mesh networks that boost Wi-Fi around the house. There's also this concept of dirty electricity.
Dirty electricity. What's that exactly?
It's basically electrical noise, like high-frequency voltage spikes traveling on your home's wiring. It often comes from inefficient power supplies and electronics, and yeah, some LED lights can contribute to that too. As for symptoms, it's quite a range. People often report headaches, sometimes feeling worse near specific devices. Brain fog is a big one, difficulty concentrating, memory issues, also things like shortness of breath or heart palpitations, eye strain, especially from looking at LED screens a lot. And then there's this sort of unexplained fatigue or weird tingling like numbness or an electric sensation. Even mood changes, anxiety, irritability, sometimes depression.
Wow, that really covers a lot, from physical stuff to how you feel mentally.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how these symptoms could easily be brushed off as, stress or a bad night's sleep. The environmental link is subtle. Which brings up the big question. Where does mainstream medicine stand on this? Is EHS something doctors officially recognize?
That's a really important distinction. Currently, EHS is not officially recognized as a distinct medical diagnosis by most major government health agencies or mainstream medical institutions. But, and this is a big but, despite that lack of official recognition, there are literally hundreds of independent studies out there. Plus, you have a growing number of anecdotal reports, personal experiences that keep bringing this issue into the public eye and, prompting more research.
That's interesting. Hundreds of studies, but still no official green light. Why do you think there's that gap? What makes it so hard to get broader acceptance?
It's a really complex issue. Part of it is the challenge of proving direct cause and effect in rigorous controlled studies. Double-blind, placebo-controlled trials are the gold standard, but they're tricky here. The symptoms are often subjective headache, fatigue, and people's sensitivity varies hugely. Plus, EMFs are everywhere. Isolating one specific source as the cause in someone's daily life is incredibly difficult. So it's an area where the science is genuinely still evolving, and there's an ongoing debate about, how much is a direct physiological reaction versus potentially psychosomatic effects. It's not straightforward.
Got it. So let's zone in on one source you mentioned, smart LED bulbs. They're super common now, almost standard in new homes or renovations. How can someone actually tell if a bulb they have is a smart one, potentially adding to this EMF load?
Right. So a smart bulb is basically an LED light, but with added tech for wireless control. That control usually happens through Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or maybe protocols like Zigbee or Z-Wave. Those often need a hub, like the Philips Hue system or Samsung SmartThings. Or they integrate directly with Alexa, Google Home, Apple HomeKit, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The whole point is convenient scheduling, dimming from your phone, changing colors, automation.
Okay, so if I'm holding a bulb or looking at one in a lamp, what are the real dead giveaways? The things that shout, I'm smart.
Yeah, there are several clues. First, check the branding or labeling. Right on the bulb or the box if you still have it. Does it say smart, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Zigbee, or app control? That's a big one. Another clear sign, does it need an app to work properly? Like Philips Hue,
Mm.
Casa, LAFX, Tuya, if you need an app, it's smart. A regular LED just needs power. If it mentions voice control connecting to Alexa, Google, Siri, then yeah, it's definitely got smarts built in. Look for a QR code or specific pairing instructions that usually means setup for smart features. And functionally, if you can change its color or dim it using an app or voice, that's something only a smart bulb can do. Regular LEDs don't have that capability.
Yeah.
And a bit more technical. But if it shows up on your Wi-Fi device list when you scan your network or appears in a Bluetooth scan, it's actively broadcasting, that's a sure sign.
That's a pretty good checklist. But what about those bulbs with absolutely nothing written on them? Sometimes you get them loose or they're just plain white. Can we assume those are safe, not smart?
No, absolutely not. That's a really critical point. You cannot safely assume it's not smart just because it's blank. Some manufacturers make what you might call stealth smart bulbs. Maybe for looks, maybe for other reasons. They don't put markings on the outside, especially once it's out of the box. The smart bits, the chip for Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, the antenna, the controller that emits EMFs, they're all internal. You can't see them. Plus, counterfeit bulbs or some really cheap off-brands might just skip proper labeling altogether.
Okay, wow. So don't judge a bulb by its, well, lack of cover. What's the takeaway then for someone trying to be mindful about their home environment, trying to lower EMF exposure?
The safest approach, really, if you're aiming for a low EMF space, maybe trying to reduce flicker too, is pretty simple. If in doubt, swap it out. Don't take chances with mystery bulbs if you're sensitive or just trying to be cautious. It's much better to replace something unknown with a bulb, it's just a simple, non-smart LED. Or even better, an incandescent or halogen if you can find them.
Okay, if in doubt, swap it out. Makes sense. So once we figured out we do have smart bulbs, what's the specific worry? You mentioned broadcasting. Is a smart LED always doing that, always beaconing, even when the light switch is off?
Good question. It's only the smart LED bulbs, the ones with Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Zigbee, that actually beacon. Regular non-smart LEDs don't do that. And yes, generally they do transmit signals pretty much constantly or at least intermittently as long as they have power running to them.
Right.
Even if the light itself looks like it's off, standard LEDs, no RF signals, no beaconing. But the smart ones, yeah, they're often talking even when they're not lighting the room.
Yeah.
They're on in a different way, adding to that background level of signals.
So what does beaconing actually mean here? What's the bulb doing?
Beaconing is basically the bulb sending out little wireless pings or signals. It does this to either maintain its connection to your Wi-Fi network or Bluetooth devices, or just to announce, hey, I'm here, so your app or hub can find it. It usually uses protocols like Bluetooth Low Energy, BLE, or standard Wi-Fi signals. It's like this constant little whisper. Router, you there? Phone, ready for commands. It's just checking in.
And what kind of frequencies are they using for all this whispering?
Mostly, they operate on the 2.4 gigahertz frequency band. You might have noticed your router has 2.4 gigahertz and maybe 5 gigahertz. Smart home stuff almost always uses 2.4.
Why is that?
Well, there are a few good reasons. 2.4 gigahertz travels further and gets through walls better than 5 gigahertz, which is good for devices scattered around a house. Also, protocols like Zigbee and Bluetooth Low Energy, which many smart bulbs use, don't need a ton of speed, just a reliable connection. 2.4 gigahertz is fine for that low bandwidth communication. And honestly, the hardware components for 2.4 gigahertz are cheaper. That helps keep the cost down for these mass-produced Internet of Things devices.
Okay, 2.4 gigahertz, constant check-ins. It makes sense why they'd need power even when off. Which actually leads to something I've heard people notice. They say if an LED bulb feels warm or even hot when it's supposed to be off, that's a sign it's smart. Is that true? What's going on there?
Yes, absolutely. That's a really strong clue, a very reliable indicator. If you touch an LED bulb that's been off for a while, say you turned it off via the app or even a smart switch, and it still feels noticeably warm or hot, that's a big sign it's a smart bulb. The reason is that phantom power draw or standby power we talked about. To stay connected, listen for commands, remember settings, it needs to keep its internal electronics running.
Right.
Even a small amount of power generates heat in those components. The Wi-Fi chip, the Zigbee radio, the power supply board, the transceivers. So yeah, warmth when off is a classic smart bulb symptom.
So besides just touching it, are there other ways to confirm if a bulb is beaconing or drawing that phantom power?
Yeah, definitely. If you have an RF meter or an EMF meter, you can hold it near the bulb when it's plugged in, but off. Look for spikes in the 2.4 gigahertz range. That's a direct measurement of the signals. You can also use a Wi-Fi scanner app on your phone, something like Fing or NetSpot. See if an unexpected device appears on your network list when you plug the bulb in. Or a Bluetooth tracker app? Does it show up under nearby devices? And for the warmth test, the confirmation is simple. Unplug the lamp entirely, wait maybe 30 minutes, an hour. If the bulb is significantly cooler, you know it was drawing power while plugged in. That strongly suggests it's smart, or possibly, though less likely, just faulty.
You mentioned cheap bulbs earlier. Beyond the EMFs from beaconing, are there other risks specifically with, like, bargain bin smart bulbs, things like security maybe?
Oh, absolutely. You're right to think about that. Cheaper smart bulbs often cut corners. That can mean things like poor or non-existent encryption on their communications, which could potentially make your Wi-Fi network vulnerable. Some might have excessive beaconing, sending out way more signals than necessary. Poor shielding inside could also contribute more to that dirty electricity issue on your wiring. And yeah, in some cases, there have been concerns about firmware backdoors vulnerabilities that could theoretically allow someone remote access. It turns a convenience into a potential privacy risk or even a gateway for hackers. So sticking with reputable brands that offer security updates is generally a good idea if you use smart devices. Okay, so smart bulbs have their own set of issues, EMF security, but you also mentioned that even non-smart LEDs can have problems. What are the other hidden things in modern LED and even LCD lighting we should know about, besides the wireless signals?
Right, it's not just about the smart features. Even standard LEDs can bring issues, mainly related to invisible flicker, blue light exposure, and sometimes poor color rendering index, or CRI. Let's start with flicker. Most LEDs dim using something called pulse width modulation, PWM. Basically, the light turns on and off extremely fast, so fast your eyes don't consciously perceive it as flicker. But your brain and nervous system, they do register it. This constant rapid pulsing creates a kind of unseen stress. It can lead to headaches, eye strain, feeling tired, even dizzy sometimes. People who are sensitive often feel much better switching back to incandescent bulbs, which don't flicker like that.
Wow, okay, invisible flicker. What about blue light?
Yeah, blue light overload. LEDs and LCD screens, too, tend to emit a lot of light in the blue part of the spectrum, like 400 to 490 nanometers. Getting too much blue light, especially later in the day, is well known to suppress melatonin production. Melatonin is your sleep hormone, so messing with it disrupts sleep patterns. It can also be a trigger for migraines or tension headaches for some people, and cause dry eyes or general light sensitivity. And lastly, low CRI. Cheaper LEDs often have a poor color rendering index. That means they don't show colors accurately compared to natural sunlight. This unnatural light can cause visual discomfort, mess with your body's internal clock, circadian rhythm, and contribute to eye fatigue and headaches again.
It's really striking how these factors, flicker, blue light, go beyond just making your eyes tired. You mentioned impacts on things like cardiovascular function. How does light end up affecting something like your heart? That seems like a leap.
It does seem like a leap, but the connections are there, and they're pretty significant. Take the flicker-induced stress, that invisible PWM flicker we talked about. It can stimulate your autonomic nervous system. Think of it as constantly poking your fight-or-flight response just a little bit. This can negatively affect your heart rate variability, HRV. HRV is a measure of how well your nervous system adapts to stress. Lower, less variable HRV isn't good. In sensitive people, this flicker stress might even induce palpitations or arrhythmias. Over time, it contributes to fatigue, anxiety, maybe higher cortisol levels. There's actual research showing flickering lights trigger these physiological stress responses. Then there's the blue light and circadian disruption. We know it messes with melatonin and sleep. Poor sleep is strongly linked to cardiovascular problems. When melatonin is suppressed, you might get higher nighttime cortisol, an increased resting heart rate, maybe higher blood pressure overnight. Over the long term, that's cardiovascular strain. And melatonin itself is important for heart health. It acts as an antioxidant, helps reduce inflammation and blood pressure. So disrupting it has knock-on effects. And finally, circling back to the EMF radiation from the smart bulbs themselves, there's ongoing research and concern that these fields might interfere with the body's own subtle electrical signaling. This could potentially affect HRV directly, or maybe worsen conditions like atrial fibrillation, AFib, that irregular heartbeat in people who are already susceptible. They might feel palpitations, chest pressure, or a racing pulse more often.
That is incredibly insightful. It really paints a picture of how interconnected everything is. The light in our room, our sleep, our stress levels, even our heart function.
Yeah.
So, okay, hearing all this, it could feel a bit overwhelming, but what can people actually do? We don't need to go full, hermit mode to make improvements, right? What are some practical first steps?
Absolutely not. Practical steps are key. You don't need extreme measures. Think about someone, maybe Alex listening, who's had that nagging fatigue. A great starting point is a simple bulb audit in your own home. Grab a notebook, walk around. For each bulb, where is it? Does it feel warm when it's off? Can you see it on a Wi-Fi or a Bluetooth scan? What brand is it? Any labels? Maybe use an EMF meter if you have one. Just make notes. Another easy win, turn off your Wi-Fi router and maybe Bluetooth on your devices at night. Give your body a break from those signals while you sleep. Then consider replacing bulbs. Swap out smart bulbs, and maybe even some standard LEDs in key areas like the bedroom with halogen or incandescent bulbs. They really are often better. No flicker, no blue spike, very low EMF. Wherever you can, use wired Ethernet connections for computers, TVs, instead of relying solely on Wi-Fi. Much lower exposure. Get in the habit of unplugging devices when they're not in use, or use power strips with switches, especially ones designed to cut EMFs. If you are very sensitive and maybe live near strong sources like a cell tower, you could look at things like shielding paint or Faraday curtains for certain rooms. They create a kind of protected space. And don't underestimate simple things. Ground yourself. Spend time outside, barefoot on the grass or earth if possible. It sounds a bit out there maybe, but many people find it helps. Crucially, use regular old-fashioned analog wall switches to cut power completely to smart bulbs. That stops the beaconing. And definitely keep smart devices, phones, routers, smart speakers out of the bedroom.
That's a great list of actions. What about the lights themselves? If we are using LEDs, besides avoiding smart ones, what should we look for in the bulb itself?
Good point. If you're choosing LEDs, look for one specifically labeled flicker-free, meaning they don't use that PWM dimming, or use a much higher frequency that's less problematic. Aim for high CRI bulbs, a color rendering index of 90 or higher. This gives much more natural, comfortable light. Choose a warm color temperature, especially for evenings. Something around 2700K to 3000K is usually less harsh than the cooler, bluer daylight bulbs. Think about how you light the room. Use shaded lamps or indirect lighting instead of bright, bare overhead bulbs whenever possible. Be mindful of blue light at night. Use software filters on screens, wear blue blocking glasses in the evening, or just dim the light significantly. Maybe use full-spectrum bulbs in your workspace during the day if you need bright, alerting light, but switch to warmer tones later. And again, seriously consider incandescent or halogen bulbs for sensitive areas like bedrooms or reading nooks. You could even explore timers or special circadian rhythm bulbs that automatically adjust their color temperature throughout the day to better match natural light cycles.
And you had one more tip, kind of a bonus one, something about plants. Nature as a shield.
Yeah, it's a nice complementary idea. Certain houseplants, think spider plants, snake plants, peace lilies. They're known for cleaning the air, right? But they also release moisture and can help balance the ions in the air. While they won't magically block all EMFs, creating a healthier indoor ecosystem with plants might subtly help buffer some of that environmental stress. It adds to a more harmonious feel.
So bringing this all together, what does it mean for you listening right now? I think it's pretty clear that these unseen signals, the flicker, the blue light from our modern lighting, especially smart bulbs, can really have a noticeable impact. It could be subtle headaches or disrupted sleep, maybe even those heart rhythm changes we discussed. Just being aware is a huge first step towards, making your home environment healthier and more supportive. It definitely makes me think about this one smart bulb I had that was always acting flaky, disconnecting. I just thought it was faulty, but now I wonder what else it was doing, constantly sending signals, drawing power.
Exactly. And understanding these connections really empowers you. It lets you make conscious choices about your space. Maybe you decide that for the bedroom, the convenience of a smart bulb just isn't worth the potential disruption to your sleep or peace of mind. It's about prioritizing your well-being, your body's natural rhythms, over just having the latest tech everywhere. It's about taking back some control over your personal environment.
So here's a final thought to leave you with, something to maybe mull over. Think about all the other unseen signals and invisible elements filling your environment every day, not just from lights. What other factors, things you don't necessarily see or hear, might be quietly shaping how you feel? And could doing a simple audit, just looking around your space with fresh eyes, reveal some hidden impacts you hadn't even considered before?